Mr. Neary, and any other YouTubers out there, what up? This is my section 3 drop. It's about to start, so buckle your seatbelts. Let's get into it. Alright, I'm going to start off this video by talking about circular flow. Alright, I took the time to print out this graph, so I'm going to explain it to you. Alright, this graph shows goods and services markets. In goods and services markets, households buy finished products from firms that are looking to sell what they make. In this transaction, money flows from households to firms. This is represented by the direction of the arrows, and on this chart, the arrows are labeled with the money. They are connected to the goods and services markets box. On the other hand, finished products flows from firms to households in goods and services markets, and this is represented by the direction of the arrows on the finished products lines. The fact that the arrows on the money lines and the arrows on the product lines go in opposite directions, this represents the fact that the market participants always exchange money for other things. Let's move on to the other graph. Alright, let's move on to factor markets. In factor markets, households and firms play different roles than they do in markets for goods and services. When households provide labor to firms, they can be thought as sellers. Therefore, the functions of households and firms are reserved in factor markets and compared to goods and services in markets. Households provide labor, capital, and other factors of production to firms, and this is represented by the direction of the arrows on the labor capital land on the diagram. In the other side of the exchange, firms provide money to households as compensation for the use of factors of production. This is represented by the direction of the arrows on the S line, and that is circular flow. Alright, let's talk about GDP, or gross domestic product. Alright, GDP is the total value of all the firm's goods and services produced within a country in a given period of time. An example of GDP would be the output of a Jeep plant in Detroit. An example of what isn't GDP would probably be the resale of a laptop from the previous owner to someone else. Alright, nominal GDP. Nominal GDP is the current year of production. Real GDP is the current year of production base year prices. I'm sorry, nominal GDP is current year prices. So the difference is current versus base year prices. To elaborate more on the difference, the main difference between nominal and real values of GDP is that real values are adjusted for inflation and nominal values are not. As a result, nominal GDP will often appear higher than real GDP values. Alright, let's talk about the labor force. Alright, I'm going to start off by giving you an example of a person who is considered employed. A person who is considered employed would be a worker who currently has a job and is receiving pay for it. For example, a worker in the Apple store. Somebody that is unemployed is somebody who is jobless and they're actively seeking work and are available to take a job. Let's talk about labor force. Labor force is measured by the participation rate. To find this, you put the number in the labor force divided by the working age population, and you times that number by 100. That will give you a percentage. This number is a measure of the active portion of an economy's labor force. It refers to the number of people who are either employed or they are actively looking for work. Let's move on to calculating Unemployment rate. To calculate unemployment rate, the number of unemployed people is divided by the number of people in the labor force times 100. This consists of all employed and unemployed people. The ratio of this is expressed as a percentage. The unemployment rate is a measure of the prevalence of the unemployment in a country. Alright, let's talk about the types of unemployment. We'll start off with frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment, the definition of this is the qualified workers with transferable skills to spend time and search for jobs. For example, this would be someone coming straight out of college and looking for a job. Let's talk about structural unemployment. This is when a job relocates or technology changes and they take over the job. This, for example, would be a machine takes a factory worker's job. These are part of natural unemployment because let's talk about cyclical rate of unemployment. If the cyclical rate of unemployment is positive, the actual rate of unemployment exceeds the natural rate. The CPI tends to overstate inflation. This is because the following biases. There's a substitution bias. When the price of a product in the consumer basket increases substantially, consumers tend to substitute lower price alternatives for another good. Now I'm going to talk to you about wages. Real wage will go down when nominal wages stay the same and the average price level increases. Real interest rate. Real interest rate is the nominal interest rate adjusted to show how inflation reduces the cost of borrowing. Next, and my final thing, I'm going to be talking to you about whether lenders or borrowers would benefit from actual inflation that is less than expected inflation. The estimate is the expected rate of inflation. When the actual rate of inflation turns out to be less than the expected rate, your money holds onto more in its buying power. That's good. But however, if you're a borrower, a lower than expected inflation rate essentially costs you more money. Mr. Neary and all the other YouTubers out there watching, it's been real. This is The Drop. Time to go. Peace out.